Any day Katakita Wakanan is spoken is a good day for indigenous people. We Kanawash Nitap. Sio Yano. So let us begin with this story from so long ago. Long ago, but not so long that we have forgotten, there was a chief. And this chief was wicked and demanded whatever his desire was to be done. And if you chose not to listen, you would be punished, or perhaps you would die. So everyone in that village lived in constant fear, except for the wise old one, Kikai. She was an elder, and she was never afraid to speak the truth. But their village was located next to a huge marsh that were filled with all kinds of amphibians. And it was good. Every night when dusk came and all of the villagers had finished their work, they would begin to hear the songs of the chorus frogs. And they would go inside and they would lay on their sleepy mats, and the songs of the chorus frogs would lull them to sleep, and they would have good dreams. And it was the best moment of the day. But one night, I don't know what happened, the chief was having a terrible nightmare. And he turned this way and that way, and his heart pumped and sweat came, and he woke up and he looked around and he rubbed his eyes, but the nightmare was all around him. He tried to push it away, but he could not. So he laid back down on his sleepy mat and he tried to go back, but still the chorus frog sang, "Gerbit, gerbit," but it didn't lull him to sleep. Instead, it began to make him aggravated. He was so angry that he couldn't sleep because of their foolish song. So he did what every impertinent person does. He stood up. He opened the flaps of his lodge. He looked out and he said, "I demand you stop croaking." Do what? The frogs looked at one another. They rolled their eyes. And they thought, we don't take orders from humans, especially such a rude one. Let's show them what we got, boys. And with that, they started singing louder than before. And he grew so angry. He stood out there as the all-powerful chief he was. And he said, "I demand you stop croaking. And if you do not, I seek revenge. Revenge on you. And I will have you put to death." I mean, the frogs were really scared. They were laughing to themselves and they kept on singing. And in the morning, he stood in the middle of the village and he said, "Come, come." And everyone came quickly and they sat in front of him. And he said, "Last night, the frogs disobeyed me. I told them not to croak. And they did. So today, each one of you will grab your sticks and your clubs. You will go to the marsh and you will kill every single one of them. Now, all of the people began to look at one another and they started to share words. And he knew this was dangerous. And so he grabbed a child and he held the child. He said, if I hear the sound of one frog, I will make this child suffer. And they knew he spoke the truth. And they grabbed their sticks and their clubs and they headed to the marsh. And they did what they were told to do. But they knew they were wrong. They were wrong. But in the village, he walked proudly because he was so powerful. But also Kikai was there, an elder. Because you are so old and slow, you do not have to go. And because you are so foolish in your demands, I speak the truth. What is the truth? All things are connected. What do you mean by that? Oh, you will see very soon. I promise you. And he stormed off. That night, all the people of the village came back, dragging their clubs and their sticks, covered with the blood of the innocent ones. They spoke no words, and they went in, and they lay down on their sleeping mats, but they could not sleep, for dusk came, and there was silence. And when they shut their eyes, all they seen was what they had done to the ones that had given them so much. Day after day, this is the way it was, until one night, when they go to lay down, they heard a new sound coming towards the village, and it engulfed the whole village. And they began to feast on the people. And they slapped and hit and did everything they could. But there were too many. And in the lodge of the chief, they began to feast on him. And he raged. And he told them, get out, I'll seek revenge. And they did what the frogs do. And they feasted more. And in the morning, he stood in the middle of the village. He was covered with red, itchy welts, as were the people. And he said, come, come. They came. Get your sticks, your clubs, go kill those mosquitoes. And they didn't argue, they just headed off. And the wise one stood there and looked at him and said, all things are connected. And he stormed off. That evening they came back and they said, do not be angry with us. Please forgive us. We couldn't kill him, but we'll go tomorrow and we'll go the next day. We'll go until it is done. Please do not hurt anyone. We will keep going. He was so angry, he went into his lodge. He fastened it tight, fastened the bottom to protect himself. He only protects himself. And that moment, the wise one stood. And she said, shh, listen to me. Gather only what you need. Only what you can carry. And quietly follow me. And they did what they were told. And they followed her. And the animals followed. And they walked, and they walked, and they walked. Until they were away. And that night at dusk, they came. They went into the lodges, and the lodges were empty, for the meal had walked away. But they went to the chiefs, and they lifted it up and threw it to the side, and they covered him. And the last thing he heard was, all things are connected. All things are connected. We know this to be true, do we not? When we think of when man steps in and thinks he knows what is best, he brings harm. I know my indigenous brothers from Hawaii talk about a time that their parents said the skies were filled with tropical, beautiful birds until the plantation owners came. And they wanted to get rid of the rats because it ate their crops. So they brought in the mongoose. The mongoose didn't chase the rats away. They ate the eggs of the birds. In Puerto Rico, they did the same thing. And the birds are in danger. Species are lost. All things are connected. Kikai, the elder, spoke the truth. But if you listen to Aki, the Mother Earth, she has put it where it was meant to be. She has not asked us to move it. We have to listen to our elders. And that is that.